Dexter Morgan spends 8 seasons trying to be good at being bad, and somehow that's the most relatable thing on television. He kills people, really kills them with plastic wrap and moral justification. Everything I do right. We're supposed to be horrified, but instead we root for him. Why? Because Dexter does what we all do. He takes the worst parts of himself and builds a system around them. His own system. A killer's system. He makes the unacceptable acceptable by controlling exactly how it manifests. As we remember, he wanted to cleanse the world of criminals, serial killers, and so on. But was he doing it right? To see this, we need to start from the very beginning and walk through the plot. Let's go. But before that, hit like and don't forget to subscribe. Let's start with the fact that Dexter doesn't remember his mother's murder. But his body remembers. His body only remembers the place where blood is silence and sound is a scream. The code gets written before you have words to describe what's happening, and by the time someone pulls you out, you're already running software you didn't choose. Harry Morgan found him there. He saw a broken child and made a choice. Don't fix the monster, direct it. If you're going to kill the right people. If you can't feel, pretend. If you're empty inside, perform fullness on the outside. Here's your mask. Here's your method. Here's your purpose. We call this rescue or Harry's Code. But really, it's just control disguised as morality. Killing a person doesn't make the world a better place. Here's what most people miss. Dexter isn't a psychopath who learned to pretend he's human. He's a human who's convinced he's a psychopath. The dark passenger, his inner monster. It's not some supernatural force. It's a story he tells himself about why he can't form connections and why he has to stay separate. Look at how he moves through the world. Dexter, blood spatter analyst. Dexter, helpful colleague. Dexter, boyfriend, brother, father. Each role is research. How do normal people do this? What's the right facial expression for grief? How long should I hug? He doesn't mimic emotions because he doesn't have them. He mimics them because he's afraid the version he has doesn't count. Here's the secret you might have missed in the series. Dexter feels everything. He just doesn't trust any of it. His sister Deb loves too much, needs too much, breaks too openly. And Dexter watches her like she's a documentary about a species he'll never join. But he doesn't envy her. She disgusts him because if she's what real emotions look like, messy, desperate, and pathetic, then maybe his distance isn't damage. Maybe it's dignity. The killings aren't the point. They never were. The ritual, the plastic, the careful selection of victims who deserve it. It's not about justice. It's about the one place where Dexter can be exactly who he is without apologizing. Just that thing inside him that Harry called too dangerous to release. And during those few hours in that kill room, he's not pretending to be normal. He's not pretending to be broken. He's just in motion. Here's what we don't talk about. How good control feels. How seductive it is to find that one place where your worst impulse has rules, structure, permission. You're not indulging the monster. You're managing it. As long as you stay within the lines, you're not the problem. Except the lines keep moving. Season after season, Dexter tries to expand. First a girlfriend, then a wife, and later children. He thinks if he performs the roles well enough, eventually the performance becomes reality. But here's the trap. You can't fake your way to authenticity. Connection doesn't reward performance. It punishes control. Rita dies because Dexter brought his world into hers. Deb breaks because Dexter let her see behind the mask. His brother Brian died because they didn't see eye to eye. Every person who gets close enough to matter either leaves, dies, or discovers what Dexter has been hiding his whole life. He's not special. He's not uniquely broken. He's just a guy who chose isolation and called it protection. The code didn't save anyone. It just gave him permission to stay alone. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. uncomfortable. We all have our version of this. Maybe it's not murder. Maybe it's the anger you only let out on the drive home. The substance you keep under control. The relationship pattern you've justified so many times. It now sounds like wisdom. The part of you that you've built a system around instead of examining why it's there in the first place. You tell yourself you're managing it. You have your rules, your boundaries, and your code. And as long as you follow it, you're not losing control. But discipline isn't the same as healing, and control isn't the same as peace. Dexter's tragedy isn't that he's a killer. It's that he spent his entire life believing the story Harry told him. You're different. You're dangerous. You're something that needs to be contained. And he never questioned it. He just built a life inside the container. But what if Harry was wrong? What if the dark passenger was just trauma looking for a narrative? What if Dexter wasn't born broken, but was simply taught to interpret himself that way? This is the question the series constantly circles, but never fully asks. And it's the question Dexter can't afford to answer. Because if the monster was never real, then what was the code protecting? And if he didn't need the code, then what was the point of all that distance? All those years of not letting anyone in, not because he couldn't, but because he was afraid of what it would mean if he could. By the final season, Dexter has killed hundreds of people, as we can know. By the first season alone, he'd already killed about 50 to 100 people. He did everything the code was supposed to allow him to do, not because he's a psychopath, but because he was performing humanity instead of living it. So he runs, leaves his son, fakes his death, becomes a lumberjack in the woods where no one asks him to be anyone. People hated that ending. They wanted resolution, redemption, or punishment. But that's not what you get when you spend your whole life in a cage you built yourself. You just get more distance and control, or the same prison with different walls. Dexter teaches us that you can be perfect at managing the monster and still lose everything that makes management worthwhile. That the code you build to keep everyone safe might be the very thing keeping you isolated. That performing normalcy isn't the same as being known. And here's what stays with you long after the screen goes dark. Maybe the monster was never the point. Maybe the real tragedy is how much of your life you can waste trying to control something that only has power because you believed it was uncontrollable. You're not Dexter. You're not a serial killer with a dark passenger, but you have your own code, your own rules about which parts of you are allowed out and which stay locked in the darkness. And maybe it's kept you safe. Maybe it's kept other people safe from you. Dexter never found out who he would be without the code. He never allowed himself to try. He saw the empty space where Harry's rules used to be and called it emptiness instead of possibility. You're still here, still following your code, still managing your monster, still convinced that the thing you're controlling is what makes you dangerous. That's exactly what Dexter teaches us. Be yourself and don't listen to these Harry's codes. Actually, I'm joking. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe to our channel because the stories ahead will be even more interesting. See you